So we got Albert Penello here with us. You're a Senior Director, Product Management and Planning at Microsoft.
Yeah, it's a long title to say I'm in marketing.
Okay, there you go. He's in marketing. We just saved you some ink on your business
Right,
card.
exactly.
So I want to remind everyone who's watching on the live stream right now, you can send us questions in the chat, or you can tweet us questions using hashtag YouTube E3. And in fact, I have a question I'm going to lead off with right now.
Just get into it.
Oh, wait, you didn't thank our other guest.
Yes, that's
our
right.
other guest is right here, and the question is about our other guest.
I feel like it should have actually gotten a spot on the couch.
The artist formerly known as Project Scorpio. In chat, people are asking, can the console stand vertically?
Yes. There is an optional stand like we have for the Xbox One S. It is the one accessory that is different between the two consoles, but there is a stand so you can stand it up vertically. Yep.
Okay, and of course the difference is because the X is smaller. It is smaller. It's a different form factor.
It's smaller, a little bit smaller, but smaller for sure. A lot more power, smaller.
Itty bitty living space.
Yes. Oh, you get my Aladdin joke.
Yeah.
I tried the Aladdin thing, and I go, oh man, I might be dating myself with the Aladdin.
No, I got you. I feel it. So I felt like I was surprised. We had a lot of speculation leading up to the full unveil of the Xbox One X. I was expecting to see a higher price point. I think I'm really amazed at the amount of power you're able to get in here for $499. It must have really been a labor of love to try to piece all of this stuff together.
Yeah, I think the team, they wanted to show off. I mean, I think they wanted to show whether it be how we dealt with the performance, how we dealt with compatibility, making your old games better, and from a hardware perspective, just showing off what we can do at Microsoft. So right from the bat, we wanted to make absolutely the best product that we could make. We didn't want compromises on performance or compatibility or the physical hardware itself. And so the team really pushed. There's a lot of smart people. Like I said, we had to use some pretty high-end cooling solutions, bringing in things like a vapor chamber. We had to invent some new power management systems. There's a nice gentleman back at home named Bill Hovis. We named it the Hovis method after him, that optimizes the power. All of that stuff has to happen to get that much performance in a console this small.
So again, like Aladdin, like it has to seem like magic.
Infinite cosmic power.
Well, it almost has to seem like magic, or like to get it to where the consumer doesn't think about that stuff.
It requires a level of craftsmanship and a level of thoughtfulness around how every component. This thing is actually 2 pounds heavier than an Xbox One S, even though it's small.
Okay.
So it is, when you pick up the final form factor, it is like magic. Like something this small cannot be this.
It's very dense.
And I think it's just a testament to the team and the amount of work and the amount of care that they put into building it. And we wanted to impress people. We wanted to exceed the expectations that we knew people had for Project Scorpio when we released the final product.
I mean, you basically were the pedestal on which the press conference existed. Everything, so many things that they showed were running 4K, 60 frames per second on new hardware. Was that kind of a challenge to get everything ready to go for the press conference?
Actually, here's what's great. I mean, last year when we announced Project Scorpio and we sort of like led off with the 6 teraflops and the sort of numbers, and people would say, well, they're not going to be able to deliver 4K with those. But now that it's out, we tell people we knew we could do it because it's what we built the box to do. We actually went and profiled thousands of games. This is what's interesting about this console versus any other console generation is we had code. We had running game engines, and we used those games engines to tell us what we needed to build for developers and gamers. So when we said we were going to deliver 4K and true 4K, we knew we could do it because the specs in this box are the result of what the game developers told us they need to do what they need to do. So it turns out that developers are getting games up and running in 4K really, really quickly. The reason that's important for gamers is it means that the developer is spending time on the game, the effects, using the power, not getting to the power. And so, and I think if you've seen any of the interviews that have been coming on, developers have been very complimentary to us in that process. So it actually, as it turns out, if you've got a high-end PC game and you're building an Xbox game, you're getting it up and running really quickly in 4K with high-end PC assets. So it's been good. It's been a good experience for us and for our partners.
So I see one of the, I feel like I have to address this question because I see it constantly popping up. There's so many people wondering about the storage configuration available on the Xbox One X.
Right.
So I see here that it has a terabyte hard drive.
It's 1 terabyte hard drive, yeah.
And additional also a 4K UHD Blu-ray optical drive as well.
Right. As it turns out, even though the Xbox One X looks similar on the exterior to the Xbox One S, the only component inside that we carried over was the 4K UHD Blu-ray drive. The hard drive, even though it's 1 terabyte, it's 50% faster than the hard drive that comes in the Xbox One S. And the reason we did that is because load times are critically important, for console gamers. And when you move to 4K, you have to load in more assets. You have to fill 12 gigabytes of memory. So by providing a faster hard drive, it keeps the load times down on the 4K games that'll be coming out. But the nice thing is, for all the 1080p games, for all your Xbox One S games, they're going to load much faster than they did on the console. So even though it's a terabyte, it's actually 50% faster than the one that we have today.
Sure. So you talked about how it would also benefit people playing the older 1080 games. How does this impact people who might not have a 4K television yet? People who are still gaming on a 1080 television. What's the benefit that they get from it?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time thinking about that too, because we are just on the forefront of 4K.
Yeah.
And so I think over the years, it's going to become more and more pervasive for people, but there's a lot of people that are on 1080, so we thought hard about it. So there's a lot of great features that the hardware brings for people that are on 1080 TVs. We talked about the faster load times. There's some hardware that we have in the chip that adds anisotropic filtering to existing games, makes the textures a little bit more clear, so all of those things benefit. Oh, by the way, if you have games that have dynamic resolution or dynamic frame rate, those will run better on this box than they did on the Xbox One S. So all of the old games that you already have are going to be better on this box. And then for 4K games, we enable something by default that's called super sampling. It's an anti-aliasing technique that basically all of the information in a 4K image that goes out, all of these high-end PC textures and all that detailed resolution, the console is able to sample from more data points. So when it comes down on a 1080p TV, it's actually better than a native 1080p image. So actually 4K games on this box, all of the information and data is there, but the resolution isn't capable on the TV, but you get a much better image. So 4K games will look better on your 1080p TV than a native 1080p game does.
I mean, that's moving to a 4K texture space. That's a fairly sizable increase in texture size.
That's right.
Is that something that we're going to see? I mean, just on the consumer side, how much do you expect that game sizes will inflate with moving into 4K?
It turns out, pardon me, sorry, day starts and I've already got the gravel.
Understand.
It turns out it's not going to be quite that impactful, because there are a lot of things like audio and AI that is the bulk of the game data. A lot of textures are actually drawn very high res today. It's just that the consoles can't display them. So they're the textures that you only see right at the front. On Xbox One X, you're going to see those high quality textures all the way to cars that are in the front of the track. So I don't think game sizes are going to increase dramatically. They're not going to be, it's 4 times the pixels. It's certainly not 4 times the size of the game data. But that's why you need more memory. And in fact, we just announced that we're giving an extra gig of RAM to developers to get to 9 gigs. So we're actually giving more RAM to games than the existing systems have in total for the system. So we're giving all that RAM so that all those textures and assets are going to be able to show up on the screen.
That's amazing. Yeah, having any the move of this console generation to being able to play it across multiple platforms and provide that consistent experience has been one of the things I've been very impressed with Microsoft doing this year. And it looks like you guys are really focusing in on making sure that that is a consistent experience going forward, going from Windows 10 to your play on your couch on your X or on your S. Do you feel like that's going to be the direction you guys keep going?
I think so. I think I've been in the games business for a long time. Guys like Phil have been in the games business for a long time. I still have my ColecoVision hooked up at home, and a lot of us just love games. And it's sad kind of when console generations end and you lose your library, because there are great games. And sometimes you might go back and you want to play those, or you want to show them off or experience them with your kids. And it is something that we care a lot about at Xbox, and it's why 360 back compat was so important to us. It's really why we're so excited about the OG back compat, because I think it is as much a testament to wanting to preserve your library as it is about people actually still owning those discs and playing those games. And there were great games on there that we hope to bring. And so, yeah, I think we've talked a lot about the fact that the way we build the software, the way we're doing Play Anywhere, it's all leading to an environment where I think your content stays with you, and the device that you want to play it on is really up to you. That's why I love Play Anywhere. I love what we're doing between Xbox One S and X. I love that we're doing back compat. It is all sort of coming together in how we think about these are about your content as much as they're about your device.
Yeah, and I looked up your Twitter account, and I saw your Twitter avatar is even the original Xbox logo
It
still.
is.
And
Hey, there's no power greater than X. I've had that on there for a year.
And that's true. And when the original Xbox backward compatibility was announced, I kind of scoffed and I said, "Oh, I don't want to play that. I can't think of a single game I want to play on the original Xbox." And then immediately the Crimson Skies logo came up, and I said, "Oh, okay, right."
Yeah, except for that one.
I do want to. There are games that I do want to play.
There's a lot of great titles out there.
Yeah, and it's just I feel like it's easy to look back and think like, oh, well, we're beyond that. Graphics have improved. No one wants to play that. And then you'll see something like, oh, right, that was a lot of fun. I haven't had anything like that in a while.
That's right.
I do want to return to that world.
Yep, exactly.
Now, who is responsible for when it comes to a backwards compatible title? So it's typically the publisher that has to go back and just do whatever is necessary to move it, or is it now something where they can port more directly?
Are you talking about 360 or between S and
or
X?
the original Xbox 360, anything in a backwards compatible space? Does someone from outside Microsoft have to go and do something?
No, we do all the work.
You do all of it?
Yeah, Mike. We have a team of some of the best. Look, this is where it's great to work at Microsoft because we have some of the best software engineers in the world, and the guys that do backwards compatibility. We haven't told the whole story yet. There will be more interesting things that we're going to talk about that we're doing with backwards compatibility, but that's all on us. We just need the partner's permission, and of course, like you guys know, the world changes and companies get absorbed and things like that, and licenses change. That ends up, as it turns out, being sometimes more complicated than the code. No, we do all the work on behalf of the publishers for back compat.
Oh, that's great.
So I've got another question here that came in via Twitter. At Technobird is asking, I guess, about something you mentioned a little bit earlier. You mentioned that you freed up a gigabyte of RAM for the developers. So Technobird's asking, is the GDDR5 used as system memory in addition to graphics?
So the way it works, and believe me, if the engineering team is watching this, they're going to listen very carefully to this answer. But basically, what happens is if the game, for the old games that don't need all the extra memory, we're able to keep those textures in RAM instead of offloading them to the hard drive. So it will improve. It means that texture pop should be slightly improved. It means that load time should be ever so slightly improved. So we use that extra RAM for the games that don't use it as sort of a temporary storage, as opposed to dumping it out of memory and then needing to reload it back from the hard drive. So again, it's a lot of little refinements that are going to make playing games on this console just feel a little more crisp, a little bit faster. So when we say games look and play better, it's going to be a series of little small improvements across the line like that I think make it overall a better place to play games.
It seems like one of those messages that's sometimes kind of hard to communicate with, very similar to with VR, where it's like you don't know what you're missing until you get your hands on it. And then as soon as you do that, you try and play it on the original, you back up to older things. It's like, now I feel it. Like just that little difference, just that little half second, that little moment of loading, and it's gone and it's smoothed away.
It's like, was that a little bit faster than it was before? Did I get in that level faster? Or like I remember this area where there was a frame drop and it's not there anymore. But when you take it all, and it is, the hardest part about describing this is that we need people to experience it. And you look at people who watch the briefing and saw our 4K screen, and then they're watching it at home, and it's not in 4K for everybody because of their bandwidth or their PC that they're watching it on, and you're like, you got to see it in 4K to really notice the difference.
So I'm being asked here if there's any other OG Xbox games you're looking forward to for the backwards compatibility side of things.
Oh, I'm under strict gag orders. There's many I'm looking forward to. I'm not throwing out
in there by asking for your personal favorite.
We might be showing off a game around today that we did not talk about at the show yesterday. Stay tuned. But no, we're gonna wait. The end of this year, we're gonna surprise people with our lineup. Yeah,
it's gonna be pretty. So end of the year is when you start anticipate there being a wider library.
I do, and I do think as we kind of talked about, I think what we're gonna try and do is go pick a bunch of fan favorites. It is. I don't think we're gonna go back and do the entire catalog of games. I think we're gonna pick some fan favorites because, to your point, like there's a handful. When you think in your mind of the OG Xbox, there's 10 or 20 games that are like really stand out. I think we're gonna really try and make those great. We'll have more announcements. But yeah, I think we have a lot of good news around that.
Again, I see another very popular question that's popping up here in the Twitter feed. People want to know about if the power brick is internal on the Xbox One X.
It is. It is internal. In fact, what I like to tell people, we don't have the back. Well, we could show the back, but the port arrangements on the back of the console.
Is it okay if I show the back?
Yeah. we actually kept the port arrangements on the back of the console.
That was the follow-up question that they also had as well.
They're 100. Not only are they in the same order, they're exactly spaced the same, and it's one of those little attention to detail things that you'll notice when you bring it home. People don't like fishing behind their televisions. So what we've all done, the experience, like Phil and myself and a lot of us, you set it on the S. You just can grab the cable and plug it right in. And so I like to tell the story that the power cable, we consume significantly more power than the Xbox One S, but we kept the same power cable. And that was a big arm wrestling match between us and the engineering team to do that. But again, it was all part of like pushing ourselves so that experience for customers was really great.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing I think most gamers can appreciate. Like I've been in the same situation where you've got your console in an entertainment center, maybe an HDMI cable's come loose, maybe you need to run a new Ethernet cable back there, and you're like, crap, I don't want to have to pull everything out. Like I'm going to try to fish around and do it, but if it's in the exact same configuration, if you're upgrading from an S to an X,
that's right.
You can just take your cables out, leave them in the same orientation,
plug it right
plop it in, and then know that they're all going to go back in.
And then what's great is that the cables that are in the box now work with the S that you are going to move to another room.
I really appreciate, too, that you guys took the time and really got this to the point where you wanted it and released it as what is currently the most powerful console available. That willingness to create this device pretty soon after the release, well, in console cycle generations of the Xbox One, Xbox One S. How long do you think this one's going to reign supreme?
Well, I'm not the guy to ask that question. Look, the best thing about this business is it's always moving forward. There's always new innovation and there's always new hardware. I think right now, as you're talking to developers this week, as you guys are seeing other interviews, there is a lot of untapped horsepower. We are significantly more powerful on all the dimensions than anything that's out there today. I think this thing's got legs. And I think the other thing, and you should talk to developers, is the effort and energy to refine your engines for Xbox One X keeps Xbox One S alive longer too. So we really see these as a family of products, and even though we know there's enthusiasm around this is also good for the Xbox One S. So I think we've got many years of awesome gaming to come.
We actually talked to Dan from Forza just before, and he was saying pretty much exactly what you're saying, that the optimization for this console made the optimization across the platform better.
Yeah, I think you'll hear that a lot.
That's really exciting. Yeah,
Cool.
And that's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you so much for letting me touch the Xbox One X and to show our viewers what the ports look like. I think that's what gamers want to know. So thank you for letting us see all that stuff. So we're going to throw it back over to my good friends